tēnā tātou katoa e whakarongo mai ana ki tēnei pūnua pāho tuatahi o Te Mātāwai. Nei rā te mihi kia koutou e whakarongo mai ana, koenei tētahi kaupapa hei whakawhānui aki ngā kōrero rangahau, ngā kōrero arotake, ngā kaupapa huhuano o Te Mātāwai. Kia ora everyone who is listening to the first iteration of the podcast series here at Te Mātāwai. Before I jump straight into the kaupapa, I'd love to introduce my co-presenters here today. So I'll go first. Ko Mikaia Leach tōku ingoa. He uri tēnei no te tairāwhiti whānui. Ko au te kaiwhakahaere rangahau ki Te Mātāwai. And I'm going to fewer the rākau to my right.
Kia ora tātou, kia ora e te hunga whakarongo. Ko Arimaki Strickland tōku ingoa. He uri tēnei Ngāti Kahungunu. Ngai tahu aitutaki rarotonga. And he kai tātari rangahau ahu. Kia ora.
Kia ora tātou, ko Ursula Featherson tōku ingoa, ko au kai tātari raronga. And I'm a business analyst in Te Mātātupu. And yeah.
Oh, tēnā kōrua, no mai ki tēnei kaupapa. So before we actually jump into some excellent research findings and research topics, you may have heard the kupu Te Mātātupu, and you're probably wondering, what does that mean? So Te Mātātupu is the research and evaluation function at Te Mātāwai. Some of you may have not even known that we have that function. So nei rā te tuku i rā kōrero kia koutou. And what we do ultimately is we build, us as a collective, us three sitting here, we help build a knowledge base full of kōrero, full of insights to help our kāinga hapori and iwi make the best decisions for whakarau ora reo, so for revitalisation of te reo Māori. So that's ultimately our goal, is that we need to collect evidence, we need to share it with our whānau so that they can do the best possible job for whakarau ora reo. So we're going to jump straight into it, and we have a couple of quite big topics that have come from some of the research reports that we support, research projects that we've commissioned. And so one of them is the Kia Manawa U ki te reo. And one of the big things that came out, and I think we all bring a different perspective on how this thing about language trauma and language anxiety. So that's our first kaupapa for this pūnua pāho today, is that we are going to look at language trauma and language anxiety. And so I am going to ask my co-presenters, have you ever experienced this thing called language trauma or language anxiety? And I think I'll start with you, Ursula. So Ursula is bilingual. She can speak multiple languages, and she is on her reo Māori journey. So it would be really cool to hear your experiences learning te reo Māori, but also learning another language. So we'll start with you.
Kia ora. So yeah, as Mihai says, I do have a few languages up my sleeve. I learned Spanish at university and also lived in Spain for a wee while as well. And so I relate more to the language anxiety part of the report, and especially with Te Reo Māori and working in a very Māori-centric organisation. I do experience a lot of anxiety. I think I also try and cover it up a lot. But yeah, it's one of those things where I get quite nervous about making mistakes and whether or not those mistakes translate to causing offence to other people, or if I've said, I think there are a few like words where if you get the pronunciation wrong, and it's just like the slight distinction between a short vowel and a long vowel, you can get the meaning of the word completely wrong. And so, you got to, that's always like at the forefront of my mind. It's like, am I saying the right thing in this moment? But some of the stuff that I do to, I guess, like overcome it is just I practice a lot in my room, and I also will have like little recordings so I can play it back just to make sure that I get it right. So those are some of the ways that I've worked around anxiety. And I guess it's just like, the more you do it, the more you surround yourself with it, the more you get better at picking up on the difference.
That's really good. And it is a hard thing to actually share those anxieties. We like you said, we have quite a Māori-centric tari.
Yeah.
Te reo Māori is being heard throughout the whole office. So that is something big. And I like how you provided solutions. And do you feel safe in that environment to, with that language anxiety? How can, if there's other people experiencing this in their own tari, what can we do as Māori proficient speakers? How can we support our learners in the workplace? What do you think, just touching on your experience, what do you think are some of the things at Te Mātāwai that we do to try and encourage and support you? And I hope you do feel supported.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
That's what we want in that environment. We want everyone speaking Te Reo Māori. So if you could just share some observations within the tari.
Yeah, I think we've got a really great tari in terms of there's lots of patience and everyone recognises that we're at different stages with our learning, and that I know that if I make a mistake, I'm not going to get a negative reaction. A lot of people they'll just let me move through the mistake and either I'll correct myself or we'll just skim over it and we're like, nothing happened here. And I know that everyone's recognise it. I'm like, cool, it didn't happen, did it, guys? But everyone in the tari is really good at just they know that I'm trying, and that's the most important part is that I'm trying. So yeah.
And that's what we like to recognise within our team is yes, you're trying your effort, and your ngākau nui ki te reo, I think is the big thing for me, is that you always show so much passion behind the mahi you do. Even when you don't understand, we can see that drive within you to be better, to know, to be one of the best allies we have for Te Reo Māori in the tari, out there sharing the message of Te Reo Māori with your whānau. And so I think I just really want to mihi to that, because we can't do it alone. Aru, what about your experience? I know you've grown up in Kura Kaupapa, you went to Hatopaora, Waikato University alumni, so there's lots of Te Reo Māori. Your experience will be very different. Have you experienced any type of language trauma or anxiety, and how did you work your way through it or navigate through that?
For me, it wasn't necessarily trauma, I guess. Growing up in the kaupapa of Kohanga Reo, Kura Kaupapa Māori, it was kind of the opposite. When we think about the Tohunga Suppression Act, that reanga of our kaumātua, strictly not allowed to speak Māori. I went to a Kura Kaupapa where you're strictly not allowed to speak English. And so
opposite.
It was totally the opposite. You'd get called into the principal's office if you speak English. And for me, growing up, I definitely felt like it was kind of hoha, because rangatahi, they pepi tonu aku whakaaro, e pāna ki te reo Māori, nō reira, I didn't realise, my whakaaro wasn't mature enough to think about the whawhai that my parents went through, and also my kaumātua kuia went through to revitalise the language and get these kaupapa like Kohanga Reo, Kura Kaupapa going. So it wasn't until, I guess, university where I started to realise that, oh my God, I've had it good, growing up. So I guess it's my time to give back to the people who gave me the opportunity to have this, I guess, upbringing. So it wasn't really trauma. It was kind of
not kuare, but that type of, you don't realise. It definitely answered the question, because I think sometimes, we've been given these opportunities. We can speak Te Reo Māori, we're competent enough to know what tikanga Māori looks like, because we've grown up in this te ao Māori and what is expected of us. The pressure can be quite a lot.
Definitely.
In these spaces, and there's, tikanga and kawa and all of this, there's a lot. So I guess if I touch on some of the first time I think I ever felt like language trauma, no, not language trauma, anxiety.
Yeah.
Definitely anxiety is because, I grew up speaking Māori, the Kura Kaupapa Kohanga Reo, went through all those trials, is when I got to university, because it was the first time that I had been out of tairāwhiti really, through an tertiary institution at Victoria University, Te Heringawaka University. And I remember there was so when you grow up speaking Māori, we don't necessarily learn the grammar behind te reo Māori.
100%. Yeah.
Right. So sometimes, and other people go the other way where they learn all the grammar so it's grammatically correct. They can tell you what the subject of the sentence is. They can tell you who's in charge, whatever. Yeah. So my thing coming into university is that I could always hear when something was misplaced, when it's an E, it's a key here. And then I remember the lecturer saying to me, she's like, well, I need you to tell me why it's an E and not a key. And I just remember sitting there being like, oh my God. And I just felt my whole stomach drop because for once in my life, I couldn't answer a question about te reo Māori. And so I was like, oh my gosh. And then I just started to get anxious every time I knew it was a grammar class. When we'd go into tutorials, which was even smaller, I was like, oh my God. So in this situation, I could have let this crush my whole reo Māori upbringing, and I could have really walked away and been like, actually, I know how to speak Māori, be real arrogant about it and actually think, nah, kei au ngā te reo Māori, blah, blah, blah. Don't need that training, that linguistic background. But it was my motivator to show her that, yes, I've been through kohanga reo, yes, I've been through kura kaupapa and kura auraki. I can do this. I know this. I know I don't know it right now, but I really worked hard and put in a lot of effort because te reo Māori was like my safe haven at university. I was at law school. I was doing history. I was doing politics, all these different kaupapa. And the reo Māori classes were always where I felt safe, where I felt confident. And the one place I felt confident had been crushed by one question. Why is it an E and not a key? So that really motivated me to really get, actually, you don't know everything about te reo Māori. That you do want to feel like that again in front of everyone through a whole lecture? No. So what I did is I actually read up about it and then went and spoke to the lecturer and I was like, I don't understand what you're trying to ask me when you put me on the spot like that. So I don't enjoy that. And she sat down with me for about 10, 15 minutes. We were going through just a simple sentence, like it might have been something simple like kei te haere ki te toa. And I was like, she was like, okay, where's the subject? Where's the tam? Where's the tense? Where's the thing? And so I was like going through it with her. And then she was like, that's it. You know what you're talking about. I just need you to do more training in this. You know how to speak Māori. You're confident enough. But this is the other side when you come to university. And that was my introduction to te reo Māori at university and the first time I had really experienced that language anxiety to the point where I was like, oh my gosh, what's your definition of what an immersion domain is?
Immersion domain. Oh, it could be a lot of things, really. I'll just speak up on like my whānau and how we, I think, express immersion domain. So we have, our whānau have been heavily involved in development of kohanga reo kura kaupapa Māori. So my parents aren't fluent speakers, but their mokos are. So they are learning the language through their mokopuna. So it kind of, ki te tai koe, ki te kāinga, ko te reo Māori, te reo matua, ki roto te kāinga mena I kōrero ana koe ki ngā tamariki, no reira. It kind of like forces them to speak, if they want to understand what their mokos are saying, you have to speak Māori. But it could be, I guess, once you open the door, you go into the whare, you're setting the time, and also like the context as well. So how I perceive immersion domain is kind of like what we do in our whānau. So making it kind of compulsory to speak Māori to the kids, to ourselves, ki te pai, engari. But these are, I guess, our goals, our, I guess, he aha kei tō te awe māpara, what we want to see for the future of our whānau. So that's what I perceive as immersion domain.
That was quite a hardcore answer. What a way to start us off. So before I jump over to Ursula.
It's definitely, like, we really believe in the kōrero, like, it takes a village to raise a child. So I wasn't just raised from my parents, as my kaumātua, my uncles, my aunties, my kohanga teacher, my kura kaupapa teacher. I guess the whole community got behind each other. Awesome. So without that support, I wouldn't be here today. So it's definitely the community that helped out. So I guess going the kaupapa on the marae would be like a kickstart for I guess, creating immersion domain in your whānau. It was definitely the community. Yeah, mei kore aki ko tō mātou hāpore kāre au e, you know, e puāwai ki roto i te ao Māori. Engari, ke te ako toru au, you know, kāre te akoranga e mutu. So
up in Taranaki, this really cool immersion garden where they've got two types of gardens. So they've got a bilingual one where you can use both Māori and English, and then they've got full rūmaki where you can only use Māori. And I think one of the things that I love about this example is that it's taking reo outside of your normal context, so outside of the home, outside of the marae. And so you actually have to learn a whole new range of kupu related to the mara. And that, I think, is the best way to just upskill yourself, because you have to, it's very much task-based. And again, the research shows that if you're doing task-based activities, you actually retain the language better because you can associate it with action or you can associate it with people. And so, this is like one of my favourite examples.
What is coming up for Te Mātātupu? Hea ngā kaupapa haere ake nei?
One kaupapa we have in store is just with Te Atarangi. You know, that kaupapa's been going on for like 30 plus years, and what does it look like 40 plus years, and what does intergenerational transmission looks like. And we have a final report hoping to get out into te iwi or to everybody by Matariki. So
that's exciting.
That's really exciting.
And we've got a suite of different things coming along with that research report. Excellent findings. I'm not going to spoil it. You can go and download and read it. Tēnā koutou. And Ursula, I know we've got something else more in our digital space coming up.
So we've got a visualization tool that we're going to be launching soon.
What is the name of that? Oh, sorry.
It's called Te Mātāwai, and it showcases where all of our all the kaupapa that Te Mātāwai has supported, as well as some previous kaupapa that have been going on, and we plot it out on a map so we can see exactly where it's been happening. We can fill in the gaps, I guess.
Ka pai. Cool. Those are two big, very exciting kaupapa on the horizon for Te Mātātupu. And we have other things going along that we don't want to spoil, and we hope that we get more subscribers and listeners. Koutou e whakarongo mai ana, please join this podcast, follow, subscribe, aha rānei.
She's always wanted to say that.
You know, subscribe down the bottom. So koutou e whakarongo mai ana. Tēnā koutou e whakarongo mai ki wēnei kōrero, and if you want to reach out to the Rangahau team, ring the tari. We're always open to have a kōrero, always open to have a wānanga, and we hope we all strive to that beautiful destination of tēnei mea te ukaipōtanga o te reo. And for those who are already there, warm a seat up for everyone, eh? Tēnā koutou. So, tēnā kōrua, i tuari mai, i tuwhera mai o kōrua, o i whakātu mai, i kōrero, i wānanga tahi nei, i ngā kōrero o te rangahau, but also touching on your own personal experiences, because it makes it a living thing. So it's not just rangahau in a report, it's not just a summary, it's actually a real life thing. So tēnā kōrua, te tuari ngā kaupapa, ngā kōrero, e tēnei o ngā pūnua pāho. Tēnā koutou.
Kia ora tātou.